طيب بسم الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلاة ربي وسلامه ورحمته وبركاته على ذاك النبي الكريم نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, as we continue in this tremendous treatise by the great Imam Taqiyuddin Ahmad ibn Abdul Halim ibn Abdul Salam ibn Taymiyyah al-Harrani al-Dimashqi rahimahullah, died 728 after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. We were speaking about the affair of the statement of the great Imam Ibn al-Majishun rahimahullah, where his aqidah was the aqidah of the Sahaba, and it was the aqidah in which Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah were calling the people to. You'll find that Shaykh al-Islam used his statement to substantiate the claim, or substantiate his call, to substantiate or to use as evidence that the call he was calling the people to return back to was a call of those in the previous generations and in the time of old, and it wasn't something new. And that Shaykh al-Islam brought the statement of Ibn al-Majishun, who lived during the time of Tabi'i Tabi'in, or as they say, Asru Tabi'i Tabi'in, the time of those who followed the Tabi'in. For you'll find that he lived close to that generation, and he was conveying what was their aqidah and what was his. We were talking about how Ibn al-Majishun, rahimahullah, spoke about the affairs of eyes, where he was refuting at the time the Mu'tazila. As you'll find that the Mu'tazila was the fitna of his time, of Ibn al-Majishun, and also the great Imam Malik ibn Anas al-Usbuhi, Imam Dar al-Hijrah, the great Imam, rahimahullah, who's the Imam of the Dunya, or from the A'imma of the Dunya, fi asri tabi'i tabi'in. You'll find that Ibn al-Majishun was refuting them with these ayat. From them is the ayat in the book of Allah, Ta'ala, wa huwa as-sami'u al-basir. We was talking about the ayat about the affirmation of eyes for Allah. We were speaking about the plural form. If you look in the verse, it says, وَاصْبِرْ لِحُكْمِ رَبِّكَ فَإِنَّكَ بِأَعْيُنِنَا. He says, be patient with the ruling of your Lord. Most definitely, you are by our watchful eyes, or under our eyes. Or rather, we should say, by our eyes. We talked about how in the Quran, that the words, or rather, the characteristic of eyes are in the book of Allah, subhanahu jalla sha'nahu. It's in this book, Allah has affirmed for himself the characteristic of the ayn, or rather, aynan, two eyes. The question that we asked last class, then why did it come in these different forms? You find that it came in the singular form, and it came in another ayah or another verse, the plural form. And then you have in the authentic sunnah, the affirmation of two eyes of Allah, in which we said that is what? That is the actual what? Correct number. But what is the other versus necessity? As we said last class, for example, the ayat which comes to Surah Al-Taha, ayat number 39. Allah Ta'ala says in his book, وَلِتُسْنَعَ عَلَىٰ عَيْنِي, in order that you may be raised or reared upon my eye. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala was talking about the story of Prophet Musa. The point of the matter is, if you look in the verse, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says, Aini, that you may be raised or cultivated upon my eye. So that was the sighat wa al-ifrad. That was the singular form. Right, everyone? Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, as we talked about last class, just to sum it up so we can speak about the topic of today, Allah Subhanahu Jalla Jalaluh, you'll find that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala in another verse connected the ayn in the plural form. We already just mentioned that. It's Surah Tur, ayah number 48. 48. Ayah 48. Ayah number 48. In Surah At-Tur. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the word everyone, the plural form. A'yunina, bi'a'yunina. Right? طيب. You'll find that the great Imam, Muhammad Aman Jami, rahimahullah, rahmatan wasi'ah, wa adakhalahu Allah fi fasihi jannatih. You'll find that when Allah ta'ala connected the word ayn in the plural form, so that's what we're going to speak about right now in Surah At-Tur, ayah number 48. What does that mean? We said last class that the word ayn, when it's in the plural form, which is a'yun, comes in the verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connected it with dhamir al-'azama. Notice Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says our, which in Arabic is what? Nahnu, we, or our, eyes. We talked about that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anzal al-Quran fi what? In the pure Arabic language. بِلِسَانٍ عَرَبِيٍّ مُبِينٍ. In the pure Arabic tongue or language. We talked about, if you was to look and study the Arabic language and what was considered from the most eloquent speech, and I hate to say use the word Shakespeare, but we know that the greatest of all fasaha and balagha, the greatest of all eloquence was the Quran, in which the Arabs were stunned by and astonished by. During that time, we know that from the things, or from the affairs that was considered honorable with the Arabs, was the one who could bring the most eloquent speech or the best type of way, even if it was in poetic form. You'll find that they used to take pride in that, and they used to have competition. They used to take pride, and they used to bring certain types of poets and compete of who could be the most eloquent. If you look to their history, even during the time of kings, that they would say, that the king would say, we're coming to get you. We. When he say we coming to get you, ultimately, who was considered as what? Me and my army. But ultimately, it boils back to who? To who? Me, myself. But it says me and my army, we, but ultimately who's taking consideration, whose statement? The king. Who is one person. Is there more than one king? Who dominates the ruler or the kingdom? One king, that's it. But so he says, we coming for you, meaning me and my soldiers are coming for you. But ultimately, there's only one king. Is it clear, everyone? Yes. So those affairs are similar to what comes in the Quran. Because you'll find that from the weird statements I've heard over the course of time, I've heard people say, why Allah say we have revealed? Does that necessitate multiple deities? La, not at all. If the people understand the Arabic language and the eloquence that had bewildered and stunned the Arab, this was from their affairs that was known. And if it was a case where it was something doubtful, those during the time of the mushrikeen who were enemies and adversaries of the message of Allah, don't you think they would have used this against him? But they never did. Which to let you know that they what? They understood when Allah revealed the ayah, we. They knew that it was talking about what? One deity. And if that was, like we said, an ambiguity or doubt that could be used against the message of Allah, don't you think that the first of the adversaries, they would have used that? But they never did. Which is to let you know they understood what the statement meant. That when Allah said we reveal, meaning it's that those affairs were speaking about Allah himself. And that was called in the Arabic language, what everyone? Dhamir al-'azama. Dhamir al-'azama. Dhamir al-'azama. The pronoun of magnification. The pronoun of what? Of magnification. Meaning to show the supremacy and the sublimity of great of the one. So he says we. So just to summarize the answer in Surah Al-Tur, ayat number 48. For verily, most definitely, you are by our eyes. Our. So, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the word eyes, it necessitates what? So when Allah, wanted to connect the word with our, with the pronoun, our, or we, it necessitates that the word ayn, I, would be also what? Plural. You understand, everyone? So when Allah said we, it would be appropriate to now also what? Make what the word that's connected to it also what, everyone? Plural. Is it clear? So that's why the ayat, it says, you verily, most definitely, you are by our eyes. Is it clear? Jay. He says, similar to that, the great Imam, most inna anzalna, we reveal. We just gave the answer for this, right, everyone? Right. So all these verses that we see that the pronoun we were used, this is what it means. So when Allah Ta'ala connected we to the plural form of the word eyes, which is a'yun, like we said, that was to show sublimity, dominance, where that type of form was used in this particular what? Context. J. Like, all of that, or these verses, all indicate what? What they call a'azamatillah, the glorification or the magnification of Allah, of how great He is. To use the word we, and like we just mentioned, what the Arabs understood. Like, what about what's the answer to the other ayah? وَلِتُسْنَعَ عَلَى عَيْنِي, that you may be brought or raised upon my eye. What does that mean? هذا إثبات مجرد العين. طيب. So now we have another context. So we just answered the first question in Surah Al-Tur, right? What about the next one? Surah Al-Taha, ayah number 39. What's the answer to that? The person must say, the verse uses the singular form. And Allah says, my eye. My eye. وَلِتُسْنَعَ عَلَىٰ عَيْنِي, that you may be raised upon my eye. هذا إثبات مجرد العين. So what we extract from this? The first benefit is what we extract is the affirmation of what? Of ayn, eye of Allah. But here, what's the problem? Or the ishkal here is what? It says one eye. And Allah connected with Him. We said aini, my eye. Right. So all of these different types are brought in the Quran and in the authentic Sunnah. What the answer is, just to keep it simple, in regards to this ayah or this verse here, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just affirmed the mere characteristic of eye. But everyone knows what a person says, even in the common language, that you're under my watchful eye. What you understand from it is what? That I have an eye and that I'm what? I have an eye at the same time, but also in addition to that, you're being what? Protected and watched over. So it's brought all those meanings simultaneously. The affirmation of I, and to show what? That you're being protected and watched over. So both affairs are being established. But at the same time, just the mere fact that I said my watchful eye, did that necessitate that I only have one eye? No. That's it. That's the answer. Is it clear, everyone? Like you will be raised or you'll be brought up under my watchful eye. Just because I said my eye did not necessitate that I only have what? J. Understood, everyone? Is it clear? Type. So a person might ask, what about the affair of two eyes? You just said that, what is it, ijma'? Type. The consensus of Ahl Ilm. So we just answered the ayah, or both ayats. And we just mentioned about the affair, why it came in the plural form also, right everyone? What the Salaf were upon is that by consensus that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has what everyone? Two eyes. Based upon what comes in the authentic sunnah of what we said yesterday, which is what? The ahadith that have been authenticated in regards to the Antichrist, or the Dajjal, the one-eyed liar. When the message of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, what comes in Bukhari Muslim, with the message of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, when he was describing al-Masih al-Dajjal, he said, Inna Allah la yakhfa alaykum. Inna Allah laysa bi'a'war wa ashara biyadihi ila 'ayna wa inna al-Masih al-Dajjal a'ud al-'ayn al-yumna. He said, verily your Lord is not hidden from you. He said, verily Allah is not one-eyed. And the message of Allah had taken his hand and he pointed to his eye. So the message of Allah was clarifying and putting emphasis in this type of clarity, to let you know that the Antichrist, when he comes, know for sure he's a liar because he has what? One eye. That is totally wiped out. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not one eye, which necessitates what everyone? That Allah has what? Two eyes. So based upon this hadith is the establishment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has what? Two eyes. But the side benefit where we stopped at last class, what was the side benefit? There's another hadith which is in Sahih Muslim, where the message of Allah mentioned, it said, Inna al-Masih al-Dajjal a'ud al-'ayn al-yusra ka'annaha 'inabatun tafiyah. He said that the Dajjal, so this narration said he's blind, or his eye is wiped out in the right side. Like, what about the left side? There is a narration that says that the Dajjal also his left eye is what? Wiped out. So is the Dajjal, is he totally blind? You'll find that al-ilm, number one, three things in regards to these type of narrations. Number one, the first step in regards to these narrations, how Ahl Ilm, how they treat the authentic sunnah, the message of Allah, they go to the first step, which is what? Number one, can they gather between these authentic narrations? That's number one, that's the first step. Number two, yubhath fi ma'rifat al-nasakh. Then we know that the second step is to look, has the verse been abrogated in certain instances, right? Then the third, yusaru ila tarjih. Yusaru ila tarjih. Then the third step is what? That one now looks for the most authentic of those narrations, and maybe perhaps that wording is shadh. Maybe it's rejected because it's extremely weird, because it goes against the authentic narrations that's more authentic than that one. That's the third step. However, these two steps are not utilized if the first one can't be done, which is to gather between them. To gather between both texts. Can they be both used and brought together? And you'll find that Ahl-Ilm say, yes, they can. Why? So let's answer this quickly. They say that the Dajjal, his right eye is totally gone. He can't see out of it at all. It's gone. But however, the left one, it has a defect in it. It has a defect in it. So we could say that those narrations in regards when the Messenger of Allah said that the left eye, he doesn't have a left one, that the meaning is that it has a defect in it. But one of his eyes are totally what? Totally wiped away, totally gone. So that is from the characteristics of the Dajjal. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and you from his evil. Because the magnitude of his evil, it will be tremendous when he's released. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. That's the reason why the magnitude of his corruption to the point where the Messenger of Allah ﷺ told us in all of our prayers to what? Seek refuge in Allah from his evil. That's to let you know the type of impact he will have upon humanity when he's released. And he will have a tremendous impact. And he will cause a lot of corruption. As it comes in the authentic narrations of Sahih Muslim and other than them. That comes in the narration with Sahih Muslim, where the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said that he's going to cause great corruption left and right, meaning in the whole dunya. It's going to bring great evil, corruption. We can say that, like we talked about before, that the times are coming where the stage is being set for his release. And Allahu A'lam, when that will be exactly, nobody knows that, for those from the affairs of the unseen. So we can't speak on that. But we know, like we said, that the signs are definitely what? The signs are there. There are a lot of dajjajila. There are a lot of dajjals out there who are callers, even in the forms of Islam. And they consider dajjal also. And the Messenger of Allah said that they were worse with his fitna. Their fitna will be worse than the Masih ad-Dajjal himself. People who are around us now on YouTube, who are very decorated and eloquent speakers. They are very what? Very eloquent, that can have the people engage, and their speech is like magic. And they come with verses. And the Messenger of Allah ﷺ warned us that their type of fitna was worse than the Dajjal himself. Why? Because you'll find that Ahl Ilm, the Shurrah al-Hadith, that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, why did he say that the fitna of these people are worse than the Dajjal himself? Why? Just to sum it up, they say the reason is because these type of people don't have signs that are clear. Like the Dajjal, when he's released, he has signs. Like he has one left eye, or he has one eye that's gone. The Messenger of Allah also gave another sign, saying that he will have written on his forehead, Kafir, Kafir. He'll be said on his forehead, Kafir, to make it clear. So the Messenger of Allah gave a sign. But these people who are being deceived and being led astray have no signs. Rather, you'll find that they're aided with evidences and proofs from Kitab and Sunnah. And they use verses in the book of Allah, and they use authentic narrations in order to what? In order to propagate and spread their batil, in order to spread their falsehood. Who's more dangerous? The person that has the signs, or the person that don't have any sign? Rather, he uses Allah's speech in order to justify his evil. Who's more dangerous? That's why the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said that the evil cause from his ummah and some of the rulers, especially during the time of Imam Ahmad, we're speaking about when he's propagating the Aqidah, the Mu'tazila, he said that those people who were afraid for his ummah than the Masih ad-Dajjal himself, even though the Masih ad-Dajjal's evil will be greater as far as what is outward. His outward evil will be greater. But the deception of how the people are deceived is greater when it comes to these type of callers, because they use Allah and His Messenger as speech to utilize against the people so they can be deceived. So that's why from that aspect the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said that their danger is greater than the Masih ad-Dajjal, even though we see the signs of the Dajjal himself actually clear and manifest in front of our eyes. Yes. I'm online. You have to excuse me. I'm online. I'm live.
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
Yes. Is there a problem?
Yes, the Jumu'ah time?
1:50.
1:50, thank you.
No problem.
Sorry about it.
No problem. Right. So just to sum up the answer from yesterday. Is it clear, everyone? So the Dajjal, like we talked about yesterday, from his signs is that he will have kafir on his forehead. He will also have his eye, one of them will be protruding, meaning sticking out. One of the eyes will be totally wiped out, whereas the other eye has what? Has a defect in it. It's ma'ib, has an aib in it. So it has a defect. So that's how Ahl Ilm gather between all the narrations of the Prophet ﷺ, instead of affirming one and negating the other, even though it's authentic. Because we can't negate an authentic narration of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ. It's not permissible. You can't take one narration if it's been established and say, oh, let's just get rid of it. No. So these are the steps that Ahl Ilm mentioned in regards to the authentic sunnah, that the affair we look to see if it can be what? Gathered. Number two, of course, you look for the ma'rifat al-nasakh. Is it properly abrogated? Then the third is yusadu the tabjih. Then we look to the most authentic. Those steps are not utilized unless what? Unless we use the first, which is to gather between the narrations, in order to work by or use both authentic narrations of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Is it clear, everyone? Jayy. So that's in regards to the Masih al-Dajjal. We know that there's so many, that's a separate topic in itself. We talked about yesterday a little bit of his abilities that Allah will give him as a test for the people. From them is that he will be able to give life to the dead. And for example, there's a narration which the great Imam al-Albani declared to be Hasan. He has an actual little book on it. But anyway, just to sum it up, the Masih al-Dajjal, he would say, do you believe in me if I'm able to revive your parents? Will you believe in me that I'm your Lord? And the individual will say yes. So they say that he will bring his own parents back to life. Not realizing that Allah granted him the ability to use the devils. So the forms of the parents of that individual are actually what? Devils. Shayateen. Brought in the form of the parents in order to deceive the individual so that individual can believe in him as his Lord. That would be from his fitna. There will be a lot of fitna. From his fitna, like we said, as it comes to Sahih Muslim, he will come to a people, he says, Awalam tu'minu bi, do you believe in me as your Lord? They will say, no, of course not. He said, فَأَصْبَحُوا مُمْلِحِينَ فِي الصَّبَاحِ. As it says in the narration, they will come upon the morning, all of their agriculture will be destroyed. Their crops, everything, their food will be destroyed. Fitna. So a lot of people will be deceived by this individual. It will be a great test upon humanity with iyadha billah. That's just from some of his ability. From the abilities is that he'll be given is decorated speech. Very well decorated and very eloquent. Until the point where, as it comes in the hadith in Sunnah Abi Dawud, that an individual who's a believer, that he has a strong belief, will come to the Dajjal and he will try to argue with him. The Dajjal will spin his head so much to the point that he will become from his followers. From the type of doubts that he will be given in order to what? In order for a person to switch. That's the reason why the Messenger of Allah said, if you hear the Dajjal, run for the hills. Run. And do not come what? Do not come and do not debate with him. He will be given what? Very eloquent speech in order to delude and in order to lead one astray. And the Messenger of Allah also talked about from those ways that you be protected is to first recite those verses Surah Al-Kahf. For the one who memorized the first, if I'm not mistaken, 10 ayat in Surah Al-Kahf, they'll be protected from the fitna of the Dajjal. And all the other different narrations that comes in regards to what the Messenger of Allah came. There's other narrations, but this is not the topic for today. We know from his followers will be hypocrites, and from his followers will be the Jews, and from his followers will be women. Women, to the point where the Messenger of Allah said that he will come to the gates of Medina because he won't be allowed. And there will be angels there. However, he'll be able to what? Be outside. And it says in the narration that men will have to tie their women down. Have to tie them down so they won't go out and hear the call to Dajjal and be deceived so they can be from his followers. As it comes to the narration, it will say that men will be tying their women down. Tying them down so they'll become affected by his call. Because we know that the women, most of them, they follow their emotions. They follow their heart. That's a problem. Because not all the time you follow your heart, that is considered correct. It's not. How many times is us as brothers and men and human beings before we were Muslim, that we followed our heart, what we felt, and then found out it was what everyone, absolutely incorrect. From them is Christianity. Christianity felt good. Was it correct? Absolutely not. Totally wrong. It felt like it was okay back then. But at the time when the haqq came, we found out that it was what everyone? Absolutely 100% incorrect. So just because what one feels does not necessitate that it's right. But that's the issue that we'll find that the Dajjal will utilize. He will play on all these different types of what? These different types of weaknesses. And that's the reason why the Messenger of Allah ﷺ mentioned that. From the followers of the Dajjal also will be Ahl Bid'ah. A lot of people don't know that. From his followers will also be the Ahl Bid'ah. The people of Bid'ah will be from his followers. And from them is the Khawarij. From them is the Shia. Because you'll find that their whole religion is based upon hypocrisy. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ talked about the affairs of the narration which comes in Sahih al-Jami', where he said about the Dajjal from the Khawarij, he said, وَإِذَا خَرَجَ مِنْهُمْ قَرْنٌ قُطِعْ وَإِذَا خَرَجَ مِنْهُمْ قَرْنٌ قُطِعْ وَإِذَا خَرَجَ مِنْهُمْ قَرْنٌ قُطِعْ حَتَّى يَخْرُجَ فِي عِرَاضِهِمُ الدَّجَّالِ. He said that the Khawarij, their fitna, he said there'll be time period where they will come out, then they'll be cut. Then they'll come out again, then they'll be cut. Then they come out again, they'll be cut. He says until it will manifest or emanate from them, the Dajjal himself. So that lets you know that also from his followers is what, everyone? The people of Bid'ah. Bid'ah will be from his followers also. So it'll be the hypocrites, it will be the Jews, of course the Kuffar, the people upon Kufr, of course, no doubt, and people of Bid'ah, and the Dajjal will be able to what? Deceive women. Because we said that the weakness usually in women are what? Their emotions. And he'll be able to play on that and deceive them. So those are the affairs that we wanted to sum up. Let's go back to Aqidah. In regards to what has been established, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has what? He has two eyes that befit him. Those characteristics are called sifat dhatiyah, khabariyah. Characteristics of Allah's essence, and they've been conveyed through revelation. And if it wasn't for revelation, we would have no knowledge that Allah has what? Two eyes. So it's based upon pure, absolute what? Revelation. That characteristic has been established through that way. Is it clear, everyone? You with me? Allah Ta'ala mentions in the verse which comes to Surah An-Nisa, and I wanted to speak about this. Allah Ta'ala says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تُؤَدُّوا الْأَمَانَاتِ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهَا وَإِذَا حَكَمْتُمْ فَاحْكُمْ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِالْحَقِّ أَن تَحْكُمُوا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِالْحَقِّ. There's an ayah where Allah Ta'ala says, Surah An-Nisa, ayah number 134, 134. Ayah 134, ayah number 134. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تُؤَدُّوا الْأَمَانَاتِ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهَا وَإِذَا حَكَمْتُمْ أن تحكموا بينهم بالعدل إن الله نعم ما يعظكم به. This ayah right here. إن الله كان سميعا بصيرا. Verily Allah is all hearing and all seeing. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ took his hand and he pointed it to his eyes and his ears. He pointed it to his eyes and his ears. You'll find, so you'll find in the hadith which comes in Abu Dawood upon Abu Hurairah, that Abu Hurairah said, رَأَيْتُ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ يَقْرَأُهَا وَيَضَعُ أُصْبُعَيْهِ. قال ابن يونس قال المقرئ يعني إن الله السميع بصير، يعني أن لله سمعا وبصرا. قال أبو داود هذا رد على الجهمية. He said, Abu Hurairah mentioned and said that I seen the Messenger of Allah when he was reading this verse of Surah An-Nisa, that he put his two fingers, talking about his eyes and the ears. As Ibn Yunus mentioned, قال مقرئ إن verily indeed Allah is all hearing and all seeing, meaning that Allah has sight and hearing. That Allah has sight and hearing. That he sees everything and he hears everything. As Abu Dawood mentioned, he said, the great Imam Sulaiman ibn Ash'ath al-Sijistani, Abu Dawood in his Sunan, he said that in this is a refutation against who? The Jahmiyyah. Refutation against what? Against the Jahmiyyah. A person might ask, because I've heard this, people say, when you mention this ayah, don't point to your eyes and ears. Where did anybody get that from? Because somebody said that to me, that when you say, verily Allah has hearing and eyes, don't point to it. I don't know why. They said that would necessitate, because people might think that you would resemble Allah with the creation in regards to the sight and the hearing. That the people might have that type of understanding if you was to do that. However, the shahid, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the verse. And the message of Allah, what did he do? He pointed to his eyes and his what? His ears. So in that we have the greatest of all salaf, who is the message of Allah. The message of Allah himself. You'll find that the great Imam, the only thing that I can mention in this regard is that if the people misunderstands, that's it. That maybe a person wouldn't do that. If you had, and you just have people in front of you that maybe perhaps they might receive that understanding. Maybe we can say that from that aspect, maybe. But also the origin is the message of Allah did it. That's the origin. So you'll find that the great Imam that he goes on to say, وَرَدَتْ إِشَارَاتْ كَثِيرًا يَجِبُ الْإِيمَانُ بِهَا. Now listen to this, what the great Imam says. وَلَا يَنْبَغِي التَّحَفُّظ مِنْهَا لَا الْإِشَارَةُ إِلَى الْعَيْنِ وَلَا الْإِشَارَةُ إِلَى السَّمْعِ وَلَا الْإِشَارَةُ إِلَى الْعُلُومِ كُلُّ تِلْكَ الْإِشَارَاتِ ثَابِتَةٌ إِنَّمَا الْمُرَادُ هُنَا إثبات العينين تؤخذ من الحديث من اللفظ والإشارة معا. طيب. He said there's a lot of places in the authentic sunnah where the message of Allah pointed with his fingers or he beckoned with his hand. You'll find that in a lot of affairs or authentic reports upon the message of Allah and certain characteristics that is obligatory for us, of course, to believe in. And it's not befitting that the great Imam says that a person should be on guard not to do it. He said not to point to the eye, not to point to the hearing, nor to point to above. Because the message of Allah did that in what? In the farewell pilgrimage. His first and last Hajj. Alayhi salatu wassalam. Where did he point in the khutbah? He point up. And he said, هل أنتم, he says, أنتم مسؤولون عني. فما أنتم قائلون يوم القيامة فقالوا نشهد بأنك بلغت وأديت ونصحت فأشار بإصبعه الشريفة تجاه العلو فيقول عليه الصلاة والسلام اللهم اشهد اللهم اشهد اللهم اشهد. That is in the narration in Hajjat al-Wada' when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was in front of the people and he said, you will be asked about me on the day of resurrection. You will be asked concerning me. All of you. So the message of Allah is talking to them, and he's also talking to us, even though it's not directly, of course. And the narration is also with us. He says, all of you will be asked concerning me. What will you say on the day of resurrection? He said, we testify that you have informed us, you have conveyed to us, and you advised us. So the message of Allah ﷺ upon it took his finger, pointed towards the sky. And he said, oh Allah, bear witness. Oh Allah, bear witness. Oh Allah, bear witness. The message of Allah, what did he do? He pointed with his what? His finger. Towards the what? Towards above. Towards the ulu. طيب. تلك الإشارات. So these type of this point that he made, alayhi salatu wassalam, has been established. Is it time for the salah here? Did it come in? Oh wow.
Yeah.
What time is it?
8 minutes ago.
Oh, it came in. I'm sorry. Tafadhal. I think that's what people were trying to indirect tell me. Hold up. We'll stop here, inshallah, everyone. I don't want to be too long. We'll call you then. Any questions about the lesson? Once he calls you then, we'll stop. Any questions? Tafadhal.
Just want to wait till you're done.
Yeah, once I can't hear the question. Once he starts, I'll be quiet. So for you
Surah
then.
4, Ayah 134 is a refutation to the Jamiyyah, but
The Jahmiyyah.
the Jamiyyah,
Uh-huh.
what is it that they're saying is, what is it a refutation for?
The Jahmiyyah negate all of that. They say Allah doesn't have anything.
Okay.
ambiguity of the Jahmiyyah, they negate all the names and attributes of Allah Ta'ala. To the point, their ideologies was called into absolute full-blown atheism. To the point they believed that Allah didn't exist outside until the only thing that was left in their minds is that the existence of Allah was in the mind. That's it. All of that was based upon Greek philosophy that they adopted, and as a result, it led them down full-blown atheism, which is Allah doesn't have any characteristics, Allah doesn't have any names. So basically, you worship a deity that doesn't exist. Okay, how's a deity can create? How can a deity form a human being that has two eyes to let you know he has intelligence, and that he gives different colors, different shapes, different sizes? All this indicates the intelligence that this creator has characteristics, and you just say he doesn't have nothing. So that's the reason why you'll find al-ilm. Is he called it? Did he call it? Oh, there you go. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar. Shanu la ilaha illallah. Shanu la ilaha illallah. Shanu. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمد الوسيلة والفضيلة وبعث المقام محمود الذي وعدته. طيب. So we were saying in regards to the Jahmiyyah was the deviant sect that was affected by Greek philosophy, in which the ultimate result, just to sum it up, they went down the road of full-blown atheism. That's why you'll find a salaf that they say, أن الجهمية أن المعطلة يعبدون عدما والمشبهة يعبدون صنما. That's what you'll find from the great statements of the salaf. They say that the negators of Allah's names and attributes, they worship something that doesn't exist. He says, and the resemblers worship an idol, because an idol is what? Created. Whereas you'll find that the people who worship deities along with Allah resemble the creation with Allah Ta'ala, which is basically an idol. And that's basically polytheism. When you fall into polytheism, you're basically giving attributes of the creator to the creation. That's all you're doing when you fall into polytheism. That's it. So that's the reason why you'll find that they made that statement. They say, فَإِنَّ الْمُعَطِّلَ يَعْبُدُونَ عَدَمًا وَالْمُشَبِّهَ يَعْبُدُونَ صَنَمًا. That the negators, they worship something that doesn't exist. And that's from the Jahmiyyah. And the resemblers, they worship an idol. Those who resemble Allah with the creation worship idols. Because you'll find, like we said, the majority of people, if not all the people who are upon polytheism, all resemble Allah. They resemble Allah Ta'ala with they resemble the creation with Allah. They resemble the creation with Allah, and they resemble Allah with the creation. They do both. A person might ask what's the difference. I'll talk about that later. It is a slight difference. The difference is this. The difference is this. When you resemble Allah with the creation, that's shirk. That's polytheism. Excuse me, I'm sorry everyone. When you resemble Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the creation, that's tashbih in regards to those deviant sects who are called mushabbihah. For example, they say Allah's face is like my face. If you say Allah's face is like your face, what did you do? You resemble Allah with what? With the creation. Like, what about the opposite? You resemble with the creation with Allah. Does that mean something? That's polytheism. Like, for example, you call on Jesus, the son of Mary. Oh, Jesus, help me. What did you do? You gave the characteristic of all hearing, all seeing, and one who can remove their arm. You gave that characteristic to a human being. That's only for Allah. So that type of resemblance is what? That's polytheism. Is it clear? So you resemble the creation with Allah. When you call on anything other than Allah, statue, tree, rock, individual, person, no matter what they're dead or alive, even people who are righteous, if you call on them and make dua to them and ask them for affairs that only Allah can remove and only Allah can change, you resemble the creation with who? With Allah. That's polytheism. And when you resemble the creator with the creation, that's what they call the deviant sect of the mushabbiha, where they say Allah's face is like my face, Allah's hand is like my hand. Is it clear? All those affairs are considered with the statement of the Salaf, where he said, Inna al-mu'attila ya'buduna adaman wa inna al-mushabbiha ya'buduna sanaman. What's wrong? Sorry. Verily, the negators, they worship something that doesn't exist. And the resemblers worship a statue or idol. The resemblers worship a what? And in both cases, that's what they actually do. If you say Allah has a face like my face or a hand like my hand, it's an idol. Resemble Allah to creation. It's not permissible. And in both cases, a person is a what? Is an unbeliever. If you worship Allah Ta'ala, we know if you resemble the creation with Allah, that's polytheism. That will remove you from the fold of Islam. If you make dua to other than Allah, calling on other than Allah, khalas, Islam is nullified. And if you say that with the statement of the Salaf, what they prohibited, or the Imam al-Shafi'i, we even mentioned it, said that the mushabbiha kuffar. Those who say that Allah's face is like my face, they're kuffar. It's not permissible to say that Allah's face resembles the face of the creation, or Allah's hand resembles the hand of creation. That would make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created. It's not permissible. So a person that does that also nullifies Islam. Both cases. Generally. Is it clear, everyone? Generally. So don't let nobody come out here and go to Egypt and say, well, these people are kuffar. Takfir is a problem. Fine. Any other questions? We got to stop and pray. I got big will do. Any other questions, anyone? Fine, we'll stop here. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.